My parents forced me to babysit my sister's kid every weekend for free, so I moved away silently, and their perfect family fell apart. I'm a 27-year-old guy, and my parents have always treated me like the family help. Not in a dramatic movie-style way, just in the quiet, constant way that makes you feel like your time doesn't belong to you. I live about 15 minutes from my parents' house, in a small apartment I worked hard to afford. Meanwhile, my older sister Lily lives right next door to them, the golden child who can do no wrong. She's married, has a toddler, and somehow still manages to be the center of every family conversation. Growing up, I always knew Lily was the favorite. My parents paid for her college, bought her a car, even covered her wedding costs when she got married 3 years ago. I remember congratulating her that day, while wearing the same suit I'd worn to every family event, because I couldn't afford a new one. When it was my turn to ask for help, a small loan for rent during a rough patch, my dad told me, "You're a grown man now. You should be independent." That line stuck with me. Now that Lily has a kid, it's like she's earned permanent sainthood. My parents gush about her being a wonderful mother, and I hear constant comparisons like, "Why don't you settle down like your sister?" It's exhausting, but I've learned to bite my tongue. Then came the babysitting. At first, they asked politely, "Could you watch Ethan for a few hours this Saturday? Lily needs a break." It sounded reasonable. I told myself it was just one weekend. But then another came, and another. They started calling it family duty, as if my weekends were community property. I didn't have the heart to say no, part guilt, part fear of disappointing them. I told myself it was temporary, but deep down, something told me I'd just signed up for a job I'd never applied for. At first, it didn't seem like a big deal. A few hours every weekend with my nephew, Ethan, didn't sound terrible. He was a sweet kid, chubby cheeks, curious eyes, the kind of baby that made strangers smile. But slowly, a few hours turned into entire Saturdays, then Sundays. Before I knew it, my weekends were gone. When I tried to bring it up, Mom would tilt her head and say, "Oh, honey, Lily just needs a little help. You're single, you've got time." That word, single, always carried this edge, like it explained why my life was less valuable than Lily's. My dad would chime in, "You know, son, family sticks together. You can rest when you're old." And I'd stand there, holding Ethan's diaper bag, wondering when my own life stopped mattering. Lily never thanked me. She'd just drop Ethan off with a wave, saying, "You're a lifesaver," before rushing out to brunch or some couple's retreat. Sometimes I'd ask if she could at least leave me a few bucks for food or gas. She'd laugh, not kindly, but like it was absurd I'd even ask. "He's family," she'd say. "You don't charge for that." My friends started to notice I was missing from everything. Hangouts, birthdays, even a coworker's wedding. "Man, you're like a ghost on weekends," one of them joked. I laughed it off, but it stung because it was true. I wasn't living. I was just filling in the gaps of someone else's life. One Sunday night, I looked around my apartment, toys scattered everywhere, dishes unwashed, and realized I'd spent my only free time cleaning up after a child that wasn't mine. The silence hit harder than I expected. For the first time, I thought, they don't see me as family. They see me as staff. After a while, it stopped being a request. It became an expectation. My parents didn't even ask anymore. They'd just tell me, "Lily's dropping Ethan off around 10, like I was part of a schedule they managed. It didn't matter if I had errands, work, or plans. My weekends belonged to them. I tried pushing back once, saying, "I've got a deadline this weekend." Mom sighed so loudly you'd think I'd announced I was abandoning the family. "Oh, come on," she said, hand to her chest. It's just a few hours. You don't have kids. You don't understand how hard it is for your sister. Those words, you don't understand, burned. Because she was right. I didn't understand what it was like to have people constantly step on your boundaries and call it love. That weekend, I tried saying no. I'd planned a rare day trip with some friends, but Saturday morning, I woke up to a knock on my door. My dad, holding Ethan's diaper bag. "Your sister had to run an errand," he said, already setting the bag down. "Be a good uncle." Before I could respond, he was gone. Just gone. I stood there with Ethan in my arms, my plans evaporating like smoke. My phone buzzed, my friends asking if I was still coming. I stared at the screen, then at the toddler tugging at my sleeve, and all I could type was, "Something came up." That night, after Ethan was picked up, I sat in the dark of my living room. The TV flickered quietly, but I wasn't watching. I realized that no matter how much I did, it would never be enough. They'd keep taking until I broke. And I could feel it, that breaking point creeping closer, one unspoken favor at a time. It took me months to gather the courage, but one Sunday evening, I finally snapped. I waited until my parents came to pick up Ethan and asked them to sit down. My voice was steady, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. "I need to talk about something," I said. "This whole babysitting thing, it's too much. Every weekend I'm exhausted. I don't get a break." Mom immediately sighed, crossing her arms. "Oh, not this again. You're overreacting. Lily just needs help. You act like watching your nephew is some kind of punishment." I tried to stay calm. "It's not about helping," I said. "It's about respect. I never get asked anymore. I get told. I have a life too, Mom." Dad chuckled, that deep, condescending laugh that always made me feel small. "Son, if you had your own family, maybe you'd understand responsibility. Until then, stop whining." Lily was standing behind them, pretending to look guilty, but not saying a word. When I turned to her, she shrugged. "You're good with kids," she said lightly. "And Ethan loves you. You should be grateful for that." Grateful. That word echoed in my head like a slap. I'd given up my weekends, my peace, my social life, and I was supposed to be grateful for being used? My chest tightened. "You know what?" I said quietly. "Maybe I'm just done being everyone's backup plan." Mom's expression hardened. "Don't be dramatic," she snapped. "Family helps family. You should be proud to contribute instead of keeping score." I looked at them, really looked at them. My mother's irritation, my father's disappointment, Lily's fake concern. And I realized they'd never see me as anything more than convenient. I didn't argue anymore. I just nodded, stood up, and started washing the dishes in silence. But in my mind, something shifted. I wasn't angry. I was done. The breaking point came faster than I expected. My boss announced a weekend company retreat, a rare chance to network with upper management. He told me, "This could open doors for you." It was the kind of opportunity I'd been waiting for all year. I felt proud walking out of that meeting, already imagining the conversations, the connections, finally doing something for my future. That night, I told my parents, trying to keep it casual. "Hey, just letting you know I won't be around this weekend. It's a work event, pretty important one." Mom frowned immediately. "Oh, well, that's going to be a problem. Lily was planning to drop Ethan off Saturday morning." "I can't," I said firmly. "This is for my job." The silence that followed was deafening. Then came the guilt trip. "You're really going to put work before family?" Dad asked. "After everything we've done for you?" That line stung, because everything was always one-sided. I opened my mouth, but Lily cut in with her usual drama. I have no one else, she said, her voice trembling just enough to sound convincing. Ethan's been looking forward to seeing you. They all stared at me like I was betraying them. And just like that, I caved. I called my boss and said I couldn't make it. He sounded disappointed, and I could almost hear the promotion slip through my fingers. That weekend, I watched Ethan play on the floor, while my phone buzzed with photos of my coworkers smiling by the lakeside, connections being made, opportunities slipping away. When Lily came to pick him up, she didn't even say, "Thank you." Just a casual, "See you next week." After the door closed, I sat there for a long time, staring at the empty room. That's when something inside me broke. Not from anger, but from clarity. I realized I'd built my whole life around people who'd never lift a finger for me. A few weeks passed after that weekend, and I told myself I'd stop letting it bother me. I tried to numb it, the disappointment, the resentment. But every time I saw my parents' names flash on my phone, my stomach twisted. One afternoon, during a small family gathering at my aunt's house, I overheard something that changed everything. I was in the kitchen, refilling my drink, when Lily's voice floated in from the living room. "Honestly," she was saying to my cousin, "I don't know what I'd do without my brother. Free babysitting every weekend. It's like having my own daycare." They both laughed. My cousin asked, "Do you at least pay him or something?" And Lily snorted. "Pay him? Please. He's too nice to say no. He thinks he's helping out of love." My hands froze on the glass. For a second I thought I'd misheard. But then she kept going. "Mom and Dad raised him to be the helper. He doesn't even realize he's being used." Something in me snapped. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet and final, like a door closing. I walked out of that kitchen and made polite excuses to leave early. But inside, I was already done. That night, I lay in bed replaying every favor, every guilt trip, every fake thank you. It all clicked. I wasn't loved for what I gave. I was valued because I gave. And if I stopped giving, I'd stop mattering to them. The next morning, I started looking up job listings in other cities. I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. I just knew one thing for sure. If I stayed, I'd never be free. And this time, I wasn't asking for permission to leave. Once the decision settled in my mind, everything started to look different. My parents' house, the neighborhood I grew up in, even my apartment, all of it felt smaller, suffocating. I'd spent years being the one who stayed close, for family. But now I realized that staying close had only chained me to their expectations. I started applying for jobs out of state. Nothing fancy at first, just places that would take me far enough away that a surprise visit wouldn't be possible. 2 weeks later, I got an interview for a position in another city, 5 hours away. It paid better, came with benefits, and most importantly, it came with freedom. I didn't tell a soul. I began cleaning out my apartment bit by bit, boxing up things I didn't need. Every night after work, I'd come home, turn off my phone, and focus on my plan. The silence became comforting, a secret rebellion that only I knew about. One evening while I was packing, Mom called. "You sound tired," she said. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I lied. "Just work, stuff." "Well," she sighed, "don't forget Lily needs you this weekend. She's been so stressed lately." I stared at the wall, my chest tightening. "Yeah," I said flatly. "I'll figure it out." When I hung up, I realized I didn't feel angry anymore, just empty. Like the part of me that used to crave their approval had finally burned out. 2 weeks later, I got the job offer. The HR email said, "Welcome to the team." And I just sat there staring at it, my heart pounding. I didn't jump or cheer. I just smiled. Quietly. because for the first time in my life, I was making a decision that was only mine, and I wasn't going to tell them until it was too late to stop me. I moved on a Friday morning. No grand announcement, no family meeting, just a silent departure. My car was packed the night before. Clothes, a few boxes, my laptop, and the small photo of me and Ethan I kept on my desk. It wasn't anger driving me anymore. It was peace. The kind that comes when you finally stop trying to make people see your worth. As I pulled out of the driveway, I stared at my phone on the passenger seat. Dozens of unread texts from Mom about Lily's latest emergency. I didn't reply. I just turned the phone face down and drove. The city skyline slowly faded in my rearview mirror, replaced by miles of open road. For the first time in years, I wasn't heading toward someone else's needs. I was driving toward my own life. When I arrived at my new apartment, it was small and half-furnished, but it felt like freedom. The first weekend there, I woke up to sunlight spilling across the floor. No baby monitor, no doorbell ringing, no, "Can you watch Ethan for a few hours?" I made coffee, sat by the window, and realized how foreign it felt to have a weekend to myself. That night, I sent a short message to my parents. "Hey, I've moved out of town for work. I'll reach out when I'm settled. Please don't worry." I stared at it for a long moment before hitting send. Then I blocked their numbers. Not forever, just long enough to breathe. Lying in bed, the silence felt almost sacred. I thought about Ethan, about how much I'd miss him, but I knew I couldn't keep sacrificing my life for theirs. It was strange, guilt and relief battling inside me. But as I closed my eyes, one truth drowned out everything else. For once, my time finally belonged to me. It took about 2 weeks before the silence broke. I was at my new job, adjusting to the routine, when my phone buzzed with a message from my cousin, Jenna. "You have no idea what's going on back home." I called her during lunch, and the moment she picked up, she was half laughing, half whispering. "T, it's chaos. Absolute chaos." Apparently, without me around, everything fell apart fast. Lily had to find an actual daycare, but the cost made her furious. She fought with her husband about expenses, accusing him of not helping enough. He shot back that her parents were too controlling, and that maybe they should stop relying on them. The fights got so bad that he started staying late at work just to avoid her. Meanwhile, my parents tried stepping in, watching Ethan a few times a week, but they quickly realized it wasn't as easy as they'd thought. Mom complained constantly about being too old for this, and Dad ended up canceling his golf games just to help. Within a month, the house that used to buzz with their self-righteous peace turned into a war zone of exhaustion and resentment. Jenna said, "Your mom even told Lily, maybe your brother wasn't the problem after all." That line hit me like a jolt, not because it fixed anything, but because it proved what I'd known all along. They'd never understood the weight they dumped on me until it crushed them, too. That night, I scrolled through my phone, seeing missed calls from home. I didn't answer any. I just sat there, the hum of the city outside my window, realizing that for once, I wasn't the one drowning in their chaos. Karma didn't need me to act. It was already doing its job. A few days later, I got a call from an unknown number. I usually ignored those, but something told me to pick up. The moment I said hello, I heard soft sobbing on the other end. It was my mother. "Tut, we just wanted you to be close to family," she said, between shaky breaths. "We didn't mean to push you away." For a moment, I felt that familiar ache. The same one I'd carried since childhood, wanting to be seen, to be loved without strings. "Mom," I started, but she cut me off. "Lily's marriage is falling apart. she cried. "Ethan's confused. Your father's been sick from the stress. Please, can't you come back for a while? Just until things settle." And there it was, the real reason for the call. Not because they missed me, but because they missed what I did for them. That quiet, obedient version of me who always said yes. I stared at the wall, the sound of her crying filling the silence. For years, I would have folded right there. Guilt always worked on me like a switch. But this time, I didn't feel it. Not the same way. I felt sadness, yes, but also clarity. "I'm sorry things are hard, Mom," I said softly. "But I can't come back." She went quiet. "So you're just abandoning your family?" I closed my eyes. "No," I said. "I'm finally choosing myself." Her breathing hitched, and then the line went dead. I sat there for a long time, phone still in my hand, heart pounding. The guilt tried to creep back in, but I pushed it away. Because I finally understood. Sometimes, walking away isn't betrayal. It's survival. Months passed after that call, and for the first time in years, my life was mine. My job was going well. I'd earned a quiet reputation for reliability, something I'd never been recognized for at home. Weekends became sacred, again. I'd wake up late, cook breakfast, take long walks through the city without checking my phone. It was strange how peace could feel so heavy at first, like my body didn't know what to do without guilt holding it down. Sometimes I'd think about Ethan. I missed his laughter, the way he'd fall asleep on my chest while I watched TV. None of this was his fault, but every time I thought about calling, I'd remember Lily's smirk that day in the kitchen, that mocking tone when she said I was too nice to say no, and the guilt would dissolve back into resolve. Then one evening, Jenna messaged me again. "You won't believe this," she wrote. Lily's husband had finally moved out. My parents were now watching Ethan full time, and the stress was eating them alive. "Your mom told me she never realized how much you did until you were gone," Jenna added. "She said the house feels empty without you." I didn't reply for a while. I just stared at the message, unsure how to feel. Vindicated or heartbroken. Maybe both. Later that night, I sat on my balcony overlooking the quiet street below. The air was cool, the city humming softly in the distance. I realized something. For the first time, their chaos didn't pull me in. I could care without collapsing. I could love without losing myself. I whispered into the night, almost to myself. They built their peace on my sacrifice. And when I left, it fell apart. And for once, that truth didn't make me feel guilty. It made me free. About 6 months later, a letter arrived at my new apartment, handwritten, folded neatly, with my mother's familiar cursive on the envelope. For a moment, I considered throwing it away, afraid it would just be another guilt trip. But curiosity won. Inside was a single page. She wrote that they were sorry. Not in the dramatic, tear-stained way I'd imagined, but in a quiet, almost weary tone. She said they never realized how much they'd leaned on me, that I'd always been the dependable one, and they mistook that for infinite patience. "We thought we were keeping the family close," she wrote, "but we were really keeping you small." I sat there for a long time, reading those words over and over. For years, I dreamed of hearing an apology, and now that I had it, I didn't feel anger or triumph, just peace. Maybe it was because I'd already forgiven them, not for their sake, but for mine. A week later, I drove back to my hometown for the first time since I left. I didn't tell them I was coming. I parked near the old park where I used to take Ethan when he was little. Families were everywhere. Laughter, the smell of cut grass, the sound of swings creaking. Watching them, I realized I wasn't bitter anymore. I'd broken the cycle. Before I left, I mailed my parents a short note of my own. I'm doing well. I forgive you, but I need to keep my distance for now. Love, T. As I drove back home, sunlight poured through the windshield, warm and clean. I didn't feel like the forgotten son anymore, or the helper, or the scapegoat. I felt like a man who'd finally chosen himself. Sometimes walking away isn't an act of anger. It's the first real step toward freedom.